With her mesmerizing performance in A Beautiful Mind, Jennifer Connelly became one of Hollywood's most celebrated actresses. An Oscar winner with a face that defined perfection. But behind those calm emerald eyes lay a haunting silence few ever saw. Beneath the applause, she battled shadows that fame could never erase. Years of self-hatred, a broken childhood, and an obsession with control that nearly consumed her. How did a girl who seemed to have everything fall into a world of self-destruction and emotional isolation? What truly happened after the camera stopped rolling? When the spotlight turned cold? In this video, we uncover the full, never-before-told truth about Jennifer Connelly's rise, her hidden struggles, and the silent war she fought to survive Hollywood's demand for perfection. Before the world knew her as the poised, intelligent beauty of A Beautiful Mind, Jennifer Connelly was a quiet child growing up in the misty valleys of New York's Catskill Mountains. Her childhood home, though surrounded by art and curiosity, was often filled with a strange emptiness. Her father, a clothing manufacturer, was pragmatic and distant, a man of logic and silence. Her mother, a former model with dreams deferred, saw in her daughter what she could never become. When Jennifer was barely 10, her mother made a decision that would change everything. She took her to modeling auditions. It was not the girl's dream. It was her mother's. From that moment, Jennifer learned a lesson that would follow her through life. That love often came with conditions, and approval was something you had to earn. By age 11, she was already appearing on magazine covers, balancing homework with camera flashes. A few years later, she was cast in Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in America, a role that catapulted her into the public eye. To everyone else, she was the picture of grace. Inside, she was just a child performing the version of herself that adults expected. In interviews years later, Connelly admitted she never even watched movies before entering the business. Acting wasn't her passion, it was survival. A way to please, to be seen, to fill the silence of a home that rarely spoke of feelings. Those early years, painted with success, carried invisible scars. Constantly told to stand still, smile, be perfect, she built an armor of composure that would one day turn into isolation. By her teenage years, fame was no longer exciting. It was exhausting. She began to equate affection with performance and attention with value. Every photo shoot, every role was another test she couldn't afford to fail. Her mother managed her career with precision, but few noticed the cost. A girl losing her sense of identity, trapped in a system that rewarded obedience more than authenticity. In Jennifer's own words, being watched and asked to perform all the time was difficult for someone like me. Behind the perfection was a child who had learned too early that silence was safer than asking to be herself. Hollywood first saw Jennifer Connelly as a symbol, not as a soul. At 15, she was cast opposite David Bowie in Labyrinth, 1986. A fantasy world of mirrors, glitter, and illusion that, ironically, mirrored her own life. The film didn't make her a superstar overnight, but it stamped her image into the minds of millions. The porcelain face, the wide eyes, the unreachable innocence. What no one realized was that the industry was already defining who she was supposed to be, long before she had figured it out herself. By the late 80s, Jennifer had become a teenage beauty who seemed too mature for her age, a contradiction the press adored. She was marketed as the next Brooke Shields, often photographed in ways that blurred childhood and sensuality. Agents called her a natural, but what they really meant was a product that sells. The same poise that earned her work also silenced her protests. For every photo shoot that praised her beauty, a small part of her confidence eroded. She once said that during those years, she learned to disappear into the image people wanted. End quote. In the early 1990s, she starred in the hotspot in career opportunities. Films that highlighted her looks more than her skill. Critics were divided. Directors saw her as a canvas for fantasies, not emotions. She played the part perfectly, because perfection was all she knew. But the deeper she sank into these roles, the more disconnected she became from her own reflection. When her on-screen image was praised, she felt fraudulent. When it was criticized, she felt exposed. Her real transformation began when she turned inward. In 2000, she accepted a role that would strip away every layer of that polished facade, Requiem for a Dream. The character, Marion Silver, was a woman enslaved by addiction and the illusion of love. A mirror to Jennifer's own lifelong hunger for control and approval. To embody Marion, she descended into the psyche of despair, letting herself unravel on screen. The result was haunting. A performance that critics called fearlessly human. But the price was heavy. Friends said she withdrew socially, and after filming, she described feeling drained, hollow, but somehow honest for the first time. End quote. Then came A Beautiful Mind, 2001, the film that crowned her career and almost broke her spirit. Playing Alicia Nash, the steadfast wife of a man with schizophrenia, she embodied grace and loyalty so convincingly that she won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. The night she accepted the Oscar, her smile was perfect. But her mind was storming. Fame had finally embraced her, but it came with the same familiar hunger. More eyes watching, more perfection expected. After the Oscar, she later admitted, I didn't know what else I was supposed to do. I felt lost. What few realized was that the triumph also marked her quiet retreat. Instead of chasing more blockbusters, she turned down several big projects. She married British actor Paul Bettany, focused on family, and seemed to vanish from the spotlight that had once defined her. To outsiders, it looked like peace. To insiders, it was an act of survival. Years later, Bettany would describe her as a person who needs quiet like oxygen. Jennifer's sacrifice wasn't just professional. It was spiritual. She had spent 2 decades performing versions of perfection until she could no longer tell where the roles ended and the real woman began. By stepping away, she wasn't running from success. She was trying to reclaim ownership of herself. Still, silence in Hollywood is rarely understood as strength. Tabloids began speculating about her disappearance, her thin frame, her emotional detachment. Some headlines claimed she was too fragile for fame. Ironically, that fragility was what had made her so magnetic on screen, and so misunderstood in real life. In truth, Jennifer Connelly's rise wasn't a straight climb. It was a slow burn, fueled by relentless discipline and quiet rebellion. She had conquered an industry that wanted her body more than her voice, only to realize that the greatest victory was learning to say no. Fame had asked her to give everything. Her youth, her privacy, her peace, and she gave it willingly, until she learned that survival sometimes means refusing the spotlight. By the time her name was etched in Hollywood history, Jennifer Connelly had become a paradox, a star who longed for invisibility, a woman admired for her beauty yet defined by her silence. What looked like control was, in truth, the art of endurance. In the world's eyes, Jennifer Connelly's love story with Paul Bettany looked like a Hollywood fairy tale. 2 brilliant actors who met on the set of A Beautiful Mind and found peace in each other's quiet intensity. Yet, as with most fairy tales, the truth was more fragile than the illusion. Their connection began not in glamour, but in loss. Bettany later confessed that he realized he loved her only after watching the news of 9/11. Terrified for her safety, he called her immediately, flew across the ocean, and never left again. They married in secret in Scotland in 2003, far from cameras and reporters. For Jennifer, it was supposed to be the beginning of calm. But tranquility never came easily to her. Marriage, motherhood, and fame collided in ways that few could see. She had become a wife, a mother, and an Oscar winner. Roles that looked perfect from the outside, but demanded constant performance on the inside. Those who worked with her described a woman who carried both love and tension in equal measure. Bettany once said she was fiercely private, almost to a fault. That privacy was her armor, but also her prison. Behind closed doors, the pressure of perfection began to echo again. Hollywood expected her to return with the same fire she once had, but Jennifer resisted. She chose selective projects, preferring silence over exposure. The press, hungry for stories, turned that silence into suspicion. Her lean figure sparked rumors of eating disorders. Her absence from red carpets fueled whispers of depression. Bettany defended her publicly, yet insiders spoke of a couple who often lived apart, separated by film sets, geography, and unspoken emotional walls. Jennifer's world had always been one of controlled emotion. But marriage, even a loving one, has a way of unmasking what fame teaches you to hide. Friends recalled how she struggled with the same perfectionism in her home life that once haunted her career. The constant need to hold everything together. She wanted everything to look perfect, one close acquaintance said, because imperfection terrified her. It wasn't a cry for beauty, it was fear. The same fear of not being enough that had followed her since childhood. There were moments when the balance shattered. The paparazzi caught her in photos looking painfully thin, exhausted, eyes sunken beneath layers of grace. The tabloids spun stories of marital tension and emotional withdrawal. None of it was confirmed, but the images told their own version of truth. A woman retreating deeper into herself, hiding cracks behind the facade of composure. Her relationship with Bettany endured, but not without cost. He described her as intense, unrelenting in her standards, while she once admitted, "I always expect myself to do everything perfectly." It's exhausting. That exhaustion seeped into her marriage. The invisible weight of a woman trying to be both muse and mirror, both adored and autonomous. When Jennifer returned to screen in darker, quieter roles, House of Sand and Fog and Blood Diamond, the characters she played seemed to echo her private battles. Each was a woman trapped between loyalty and self-destruction, love and loss. Critics called her performances soul-bare, unaware that she was bleeding truth through fiction. The pain of her characters was not performance, it was confession. And yet, through all the turbulence, Jennifer remained steadfast in one thing: her silence. She never responded to the rumors, never offered explanations. To her, love was not for display, and pain was not for headlines. In that silence lay both dignity and loneliness. A duality she had mastered since girlhood. By the mid-2010s, Jennifer's image in Hollywood had shifted. She was no longer the ingenue, nor the sex symbol. She was a mystery. Her distance made her alluring, her restraint almost spiritual. But those who looked closer saw something else. A woman living behind glass, transparent yet unreachable. Love had not destroyed her. It had simply exposed the fragility of her foundation. In the end, her marriage survived the storms, but Jennifer herself seemed to live in perpetual tension between devotion and disappearance. The woman who once belonged to the screen had now learned to belong to no one. Not even to fame, and sometimes, not even to herself. By the late 2010s, Jennifer Connelly had nearly vanished from the very world that once worshipped her. No scandals, no public breakdowns, just a quiet erasure. Hollywood had moved on to younger faces, faster trends, louder stories. And she, the woman who once embodied calm perfection, had retreated into near invisibility. For years, fans speculated about what had happened. Was it burnout, illness, or a conscious escape from the machinery of fame? The truth, as it turned out, was more complex and more human. After her Oscar win, Jennifer's perfectionism, the trait that had once fueled her brilliance, became a cage. The constant pressure to maintain an ideal image spiraled into a silent battle with anxiety, control, and self-denial. Insiders recalled she often skipped meals on set, obsessed with keeping a certain image. By the time she began filming Shelter in 2014, she had dropped over 25 pounds to portray a homeless addict. A transformation that blurred the line between method acting and self-punishment. She later admitted that the process took months and left her body frail, her energy depleted. Yet that physical depletion mirrored a deeper truth. Beneath her composed surface, Jennifer was confronting years of internalized criticism. The kind she'd learned to inflict upon herself. "I used to have a lot of self-hatred." A lot. It was really rampant. She confessed to glamour. It wasn't drugs or alcohol that consumed her, it was perfection itself. a socially acceptable addiction that quietly eats away at countless women in Hollywood. The public, of course, saw none of this. The cameras showed only the symmetry of her face, the quiet poise in interviews. But those who worked with her during that period spoke of someone distant, lost in thought, careful with every word. As if language itself could wound her. Her silence wasn't mystery, it was defense. Jennifer's disappearance from mainstream cinema wasn't a fall in the traditional sense. There was no scandal, no dramatic collapse, but an implosion. She had spent decades learning to survive visibility, and now she needed invisibility to survive herself. Her absence became her rebellion. In a business where self-exposure is currency, she chose withdrawal. "Peace isn't applause," she once said. "It's learning to be quiet without disappearing." It said the Seamber. Still, silence is rarely kind to women in Hollywood. Rumors filled the vacuum. Tabloids speculated about depression, eating disorders, and marital issues. Photographs of her thin frame in 2017 were analyzed like evidence. Each pixel became a theory. Few stopped to consider that maybe Jennifer wasn't breaking. She was rebuilding. During this hiatus, she devoted herself to motherhood and introspection. Friends described her as almost meditative, spending long stretches reading or hiking, avoiding public events entirely. The woman who had once been the face of youth and desire was now searching for something the industry could never offer: peace of mind. Then, in 2022, she resurfaced. Not with scandal, but with grace. In Top Gun: Maverick, she played Penny Benjamin, a grounded, mature woman who carried both sensuality and serenity. It wasn't just a comeback, it was a statement. The world saw her smile again, softer now, stripped of the rigid control that once defined her. The film grossed over $1.5 billion, introducing her to a new generation. Not as a fallen star, but as proof that healing can look like quiet strength. That role, small but symbolic, marked a turning point. Penny Benjamin was everything Jennifer had fought to become: composed but real, vulnerable yet dignified. It was as if she had finally found a character who matched her internal evolution. The woman who had once been trapped by image was now free to exist beyond it. But behind that serenity lies a societal reflection: the silent epidemic of performance anxiety and self-erasure among women in fame. Jennifer's journey speaks to a broader truth, that the entertainment industry often rewards female pain while punishing female honesty. For decades, she had been praised for her beauty and restraint, yet those very qualities had imprisoned her. Her real act of defiance was to stop performing. Medical experts have often referred to this phenomenon as the silent burnout, a psychological collapse driven by perfectionism, over-control, and chronic stress. Jennifer never labeled herself with any diagnosis, but her story fits the pattern. The perfection that brought her success nearly devoured her peace. It's tempting to label this as tragedy, the slow unraveling of a gifted woman under the weight of expectations. But in truth, Jennifer Connelly's downfall wasn't destruction, it was transformation. She dismantled the illusion of who she was supposed to be, piece by piece, until only the authentic self remained. In one of her rare, reflective interviews, she said quietly, "I don't chase the noise anymore. I like small lives, quiet rooms, honest work." It was an admission and a declaration of survival. Looking back, her story reads like a cautionary tale for Hollywood's obsession with perfection, a reminder that beauty without freedom is just another form of captivity. Her decline from the spotlight wasn't a disappearance, but a choice to live. As the credits of her life's film continue to roll, Jennifer Connelly stands as one of the few who dared to rewrite her ending. Not with scandal, not with tragedy, but with silence, dignity, and truth. The woman once known for her stillness had finally learned to breathe.